So many cooks in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.
Hello and welcome to the February show of So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. My name is Dilla Barman. I come to you from North Carolina. Today is February 10th and there's a holiday around the corner, Valentine's Day. So we decided to do a show called So Many Sweet Foods. I should back up for a second and say if you're new, we do this monthly show called So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. We've been at it since May, I believe, of the year 2020. So we're coming up on 4 years. All of us, we're in different geographies, are Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Food for Life instructors, pcrm.org, and we teach Food for Life classes, fflclasses.org. There's several hundred of us around the world, and we encourage you to go to fflclasses.org and see if there's an instructor near you or one who's offering online classes. Our classes are all evidence-based classes showing you the amazing power of plant-based foods for keeping us healthy. And if we end up with diabetes or high blood pressure or cancer, certain kinds of cancer or other conditions, how plant-based foods can really help manage our condition. So with Valentine's Day, those of you who celebrate, happy Valentine's Day a little bit in advance, we often look for something sweet. And we want to avoid artificial sweeteners and even sugar. Sugar gets into your bloodstream very quickly and gives you, it has what's called a high glycemic index. So in my kitchen, I almost never use sugar. Sometimes when my daughter and I like to make cookies or brownies, we'll use some sweetener. And there are some choices. I like this one called monk fruit sweetener. Believe it or not, this has a 0 glycemic index. Does that tell you that if you like something sweet, we should eat a lot of it? I'll tell you the two disadvantages of it. The advantage is it's a 0 glycemic index. It tastes like sugar, although my daughter says she notices a slight aftertaste she doesn't like as much. But it works just like sugar. The two disadvantages are it's expensive. I think this bag cost $12 or $13. An equivalent amount of sugar would be, I actually don't know, I'm guessing $2 or $3. If you are buying sugar, then, and I don't recommend sugar, but if you're using small quantities for whatever reason, then try turbinado sugar, the unprocessed sugar. Some sugars are bleached with animal bones. So if you're getting the white sugar, be careful. So the two disadvantages are the price, and also if you develop a sweet tooth and you're out traveling and you want that higher sweetness and you can't find this, then you might start looking for unhealthy sweeteners. So my suggestion with this is buy it occasionally. For the dish I'm going to be making, which is a reduced berry concoction on top of caramelized bananas, it needs just a little bit of a sweetener. And I've come to a very small quantity. I think we were using 3 teaspoons. And my daughter tried it and she loved it. So did my wife. So it doesn't need a lot of sweetener, so a small quantity. So let's get started. I'm going to be working today with berries, and the berries will take a little bit of time. So I'm going to start cooking them. Okay. So I'm on medium heat. So I've put a cup of berries, and be careful, they of course stain, so I won't hold them. But I'm using frozen berries. You can use fresh. It'll cook faster if it's fresh, but it doesn't take much longer. It takes maybe 2 minutes longer if it's frozen, 2 or 3 minutes. I like the small wild blueberries, and I also got a berry blend. The berry blend adds some additional flavors. The only small problem with berries like strawberries is they're big and they're going to take a little bit longer to cook down. But you can see I turned the heat on 30 seconds ago, and already we're getting some juice. This is pretty soon going to become a juicy concoction. I'm going to add all the ingredients for this at once. So, and I have some notes I want to make sure I get to also. Berries are high in antioxidants. They're so rich in color. And we're going to be using bananas. Bananas, I think you know, are a great source of potassium, and they give you sustained energy. So bananas are great. And they're both taste sweet, but they're both low on the glycemic index. So these are great foods to eat. So you may notice that in the Food for Life program, we recommend legumes like lentils and beans, vegetables, whole grains, and fruits. And you can see as the fruit's cooking, it's becoming liquidy and it's cooking down. Okay, so there we go. I'm also going to be adding some monk fruit extract, and my experiment showed that 3 teaspoons, I just made this recipe up recently, very recently, last night. So, get my teaspoon measure. So this is 1 teaspoon, and I'm being stingy, it's not even a full teaspoon. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add a 2nd teaspoon. Again, being stingy, I'm adding less than 3 teaspoons. It really doesn't need much sweetener at all. Okay, this is how I made it last night with 3 teaspoons, and my daughter said it was plenty sweet. Okay, and I'm going to periodically turn it. Once I'm going to go between medium and low, and then as it all melts down, I'm going to go to a low simmer. I'm also going to add lemon juice or tangerine juice. Let me add the tangerine juice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tangerine, which I've already washed. It's organic. And actually, let me use this one that I took the skin out, and I made some zest. So I'm going to cut this in half. And I'm going to squeeze the tangerine juice in. Those of you who've been with the show for a while know I'm a citrus fiend, and I find sneaky ways of sneaking citrus into many different dishes. Okay. So there's the juice. I'm going to use the other half in a few moments. I'm also going to add the citrus zest. What I did is you can use a zester and make it much finer, but I like the coarser pieces of citrus, and so I tried to avoid as much of the pith, the white part, and I chopped it fairly fine. All the recipes we have for you in a document, and one of my colleagues can share that. You will see that. We probably already have shared it while I was preparing in the kitchen. And you can see how it becomes almost soupy. And you might be thinking, isn't this supposed to be a berry reduction? Isn't it supposed to be a little bit more solid? Well, as we cook this, 10 minutes or more, it does become more and more solid, but you have an option, not at this point, but towards the end of cooking, of mixing in a little bit of arrowroot. You can use cornstarch as well, and you'd use just a little bit and you'd mix it in. If you put it too early, that can cause a problem. You want to do it towards the end. It becomes kind of almost too hard. So at the very end, you can add a little bit for thickening. It doesn't add any flavor, just a starch. Okay, but when I did this last night, it didn't need any thickener at all. I had it on hand, but I didn't use it. So you see these bigger berries, like the blackberries, I'm just kind of pushing down. So occasionally I'm just pressing down on the berries to homogenize them. Okay, so I've added berries, I've added tangerine juice, and I've added some zest. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon isn't the best flavor for this dish. It's not bad. But in this case, I add the cinnamon because it further reduces your glycemic load. Cinnamon is a great food to eat, and it tastes sweet, but it slows the uptake of sugar into the bloodstream. So I'm going to add just a quick shake of cinnamon. I like the flavor of cinnamon. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of minced ginger. Goes great with this. You have this nice, unique flavor of ginger, but I forgot to get ginger. So pretend I'm peeling the ginger. I'm chopping 1/4 teaspoon, pretty fine, like 1/8 of an inch or so. You can use a zester as well. So pretend I added my ginger. It's an optional ingredient. You don't need it. And that's all that goes in here. Now, these frozen fruits are defrosted now. And it's going from solid to liquid, and then as we cook it, uncovered, it's going to go back to a little bit more jelly-like feeling. And that's it for my fruits. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to caramelize banana. In the United States, at least in the mainland, most of our bananas are the Cavendish banana. You can sometimes get baby bananas and red bananas, but I generally, here in North Carolina, don't get them organic, and I really want to get organic. So I'm going to turn my pan on. I'm going to have the saute pan, and I'm going to put my banana flat side. What I did with the banana, well, let me put it in the pan, and I'll tell you what I did. So there goes the pieces. I'm going to put the flat side down. The recipe calls for a couple bananas. I'm just going to do one for the show. And what I did is I peeled the banana. There are recipes for grilling banana where you actually put it on a grill. I don't have any experience with grills, and in those cases you want to leave the skin on, and it'll keep the heat and it'll grill in the skin. But I'm actually doing it pan-wise. What I did is I cut it in thirds like this, boom, boom, at an angle, and then I turned it this way and I cut it in half. That's all I did. And you'll be surprised that fairly quickly the bottom of the banana is going to start turning brown and caramelizing. I mean, I just put it in, and already this is softening. It's glistening. It's not brown yet, but it's getting there. Okay? It doesn't take long. It takes, you should see some browning in about a minute or so. Okay? So I'm going to let that brown a bit. And let's take a look at the berries. I'll throw these into, well, be careful about handling berries, especially if they've been frozen, because they will stain, and I don't want to take a moment to wash my hands. So I will enjoy those frozen berries after my segment's up. This smells really good. Again, we put very little monk fruit. You can try this with 0 sweetener. Feel free to do that. You can try a little maple syrup, but it's the solid sweeteners, the things like the monk fruit, which turn out better for the texture. Okay, so I really want to put this on a low simmer, and the membranes of the berries are decomposing, and I'm able to press on them gently. I don't know if you can see it, that strawberry just very gently, really dissolved almost. I can perhaps even turn the heat off, but I'm going to let it stay on very low just for another minute or so. Again, the cook time is about 10 minutes. The longer you cook, the thicker it will be. I could stop here and have a more liquidy end product, and then you would serve it with spoons, not with forks, and that's fine. Okay. So in terms of nutrition, the less you cook it, of course, the better. But this is chock full of antioxidants that cooking is really not a problem. But you can also decide that you want the berries warm, so you want to let it sit for a while, which will congeal it more and make it a little more thick. Or you can even serve it cool. Okay, so let's see how our bananas are doing. Look at that. You see how cooked it is on this side? And it's starting to turn brown. So that's what I do. I let it cook for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes. And then when it's on its side, I'm going to try to pick up one piece. Obviously it's curved. So what you want to do is you want to gently rock it. This side is harder to caramelize. Okay? Do you guys know what caramelizing means? So fruits have natural sugars in them. They come with fiber and all, so they're healthy to eat fruit as opposed to separated sweetness. And when you add heat, the sugars rise to the surface and become this kind of brownness, which is the same thing we get with caramelizing onions. So caramelizing fruit gives you this extra kick of sweetness. It intensifies the sweetness. You may have seen some of our earlier shows when we've, I think I've caramelized peaches or apricots in one show. We did something with that. I did. Okay, now this side's going to be harder to caramelize, but you see we have a strip, okay? What I should also have mentioned is that the bananas ideally should not have spots. They should be reasonably firm. If they're too ripe, then when you cook it, it will become mushy. So you want relatively firm bananas. You don't want green bananas, but you want bananas. This is the limit, I would say, of how ripe it should be. And if you can see the banana, it's starting to develop some spots. I wouldn't go beyond that. Okay? All right, so this is looking good. And then what I would do is I would flip it. Okay, you see how this side is cooked more or less. It hasn't browned much, and that's okay. And you can let it sit with the flat side down for a couple minutes. It's going to start sticking to the pan, but here's where my tangerine helps me again. What I'm going to do now is, ideally I'd let it sit for maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but I want to move on to the next presenter, which I think it's Janen. I think she's our next presenter. So I'm going to turn off the berries. They're done. Okay? Let's actually look at the berries. You see how it's thickened? And it's just going to get thicker and thicker. For purposes of the show, I'm perfectly happy with this. I'm anxious to try it. But at home, let it cook down a little bit more. If you want, add a tiny bit of arrowroot. There's nothing wrong with arrowroot. I kind of take pride in not using extra things, using less ingredients, so I'm not going to add the arrowroot. But if you look, that's reasonably thick. Right? Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat off. And now, let's see if the banana is sticking a little bit. It kind of is sticking just a little bit, but not much. Okay. The danger with cooking bananas too long is it just gets too mushy, even if it's a firm banana. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other half of my tangerine and I'm going to squeeze it over there. It's going to help separate the banana from the pan. It's going to help deglaze, pick up some of the caramelized flavors that otherwise might be left behind in the pan, and add a little hint of citrus. You'll hear sizzle. You know what else you can add at this point is some vanilla. Vanilla goes well, but you know when banana caramelizes, it picks up kind of a vanilla flavor anyhow. And see, it comes right off the pan. And where I had some baked on banana, look at that. The acid in the tangerine just makes it come right off. I'm going to turn off the pan. My pan has never been over medium-high heat. And see, this banana got cooked just a little bit too much. This one is good. This one's good. Most of those are good. Let me go ahead and serve it. So I'm going to take, look at that. It's not totally brown, but it's looking pretty good. There's the second piece. Let's separate a little bit. And let's take the third piece. Aha! That's looking really nice. No added fat. And almost no added sweetener. And the sweetener that we've added is a pretty innocuous one. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of my berry, my reduced berry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of cacao nibs. Cacao nibs are pure chocolate. It's the cacao pod that's been dried. And we should have a show on chocolate. Chocolate does have some health benefits, but not once we start adding, certainly, cow's milk or sugar or other things, right? But this is the pure cacao nibs. I don't drink alcohol. For me, alcohol tastes like spoiled, juice. So I have no sophistication there. Same thing here with cacao nibs. If you're not used to it, you may not like it at first because it's so bitter, but it's the true chocolate flavor. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of cacao nibs on for some crunch and for chocolatey flavor. And it looks good too. And then you can optionally put a little bit of cocoa on it, which I'll do. So here's my cocoa powder. Let's get a spoon. So cocoa, just take a tiny bit of cocoa. There we go. And this is my caramelized banana with reduced berry. It's delicious. I want to take a picture of it when I'm done, so I'm not going to sample it. But I assure you, what I had last night was really good. I think you're going to like this. So that's my banana with berries. Give it a try. The ingredients are should be readily available. And you can also optionally add pomegranate molasses if you want. Just a little bit. You can make a little design, a little swivel. That would be pretty cool. Okay. So hope you enjoyed. Again, all the recipes will be available. Next, we have Janen Orhun, and she's making her chia pudding with a Valentine's twist. Take it away, Janen.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Dilip, for the introduction and your amazing dishes, as always. Welcome, everybody, to my kitchen in Abu Dhabi. Today, we are talking about sweet dishes. I mean, who doesn't like sweets, especially as we get near Valentine's Day? everybody's doing something chocolatey or other. And I have chosen something chocolatey for our session today. My little recipe is called overnight chocolate chia pudding. The recipe is adapted from that in Minimalist Baker website. I love their recipes, and this is one of my favorite and easy to make chocolate puddings. It has only a few recipes. As always, the recipe booklet is online for you to use. And here I go. The first ingredient is cocoa powder. I'm doing it for 2 people, therefore I have the recipes. I have 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. And basically we start by sifting the cocoa because often it gets lumps and we don't want any lumps. So I've already sifted 1 tablespoon. Now I'll go ahead and sift the next one. As you might see, there are already lumps. I break them as I go along. And I use the back of the measuring spoon, which helps speed things up. And here we go. This is a cute little set I have for tea, but I can also use it for tasks like this. So here's my cocoa powder, nicely sifted and perfect. In this recipe, we first put the few of the dry ingredients, the cocoa, the cinnamon powder, which is optional if you want, the vanilla, which I use as a vanilla pod. You may use vanilla extract or wither. If you're using a pod, I've used the half because of the size of the recipe. You take this has not been used, I cut it in half, slice it in half, and once you slice it in half, you take it and you gently push all the little seeds, which are what give us the wonderful flavor of vanilla. There's still more in this, but I need to continue with our recipe. So here we go. I have plenty here to nicely flavor it. Then comes the maple syrup. So the recipe calls for certain steps, but if you're in a hurry and lazy, you could also, after sifting, put everything together. But I'm now following as the recipe says. So you also put the measured maple syrup, so yummy. And then you sift it all, or you mix it all to get a creamy mixture here. Everything is being mixed, and it's coming together. It takes a bit. You just keep mixing it. It sort of becomes a chocolatey, creamy mixture. Oh boy, this is yummy Toshita as it is. But you can if you can do that, and you can dip some strawberries in it, which is wonderful because it's cocoa, cinnamon, vanilla, and maple syrup. A yummy mixture. Now, as you can see, it's no longer a powder. It's a nice, creamy mixture of cocoa and cinnamon and all the goodies. And we have also a pinch of salt if you would like. Salt sometimes brings the flavor of the chocolate, just a tiny pinch. It's not to overwhelm the recipe. So at this stage, you start adding the turtle-based milk. I prefer to use soy milk, unsweetened, and hopefully from a good source that it's not GDO. GMO. What am I talking about? So you add the plant-based milk little by little at first to make sure you're getting everything nice and smooth. It's coming around very nicely. And the smell of the cocoa powder is yummy. Now it's becoming drinkable. But we're on a mission to make pudding. Okay, so this is now nicely mixed. There are no lumps or anything. It's all very liquidy. Then you can add the rest of your black milk. Like I said, mine is soy milk. I use soy milk because it's got a little bit more nutrition in it, more protein. And Brenda Davis, in a recent podcast, was saying that after 65, our bodies have a hard time digesting, metabolizing the protein, so we need more. Well, not 65 yet, but I'm 64 this year. So to make it a bit more nutrient rich, I choose soy milk. Okay, folks, this is all done, all liquid. I'm going to put this here for now. And then we add the chia seeds. There they go. I'm now switching to that because that one is too little. It's good for small portions. So now you add the chia seeds to your liquid chocolate milk, basically, which smells of vanilla. You give it a nice mix, so it's all. So here we are, done. This one now can go into the fridge. The recipe suggests that once you put it in the fridge, after about 40 minutes, go back and give it another whisk so that it's all blending nicely and gets thick and creamy. And I do that. So this is ready. Our recipe is done. I'm going to put this here. Afterwards, I'm going to cover it and put it in the fridge. But yesterday, I already made one. Here it is. It's all nicely coagulated. It won't even come down. So your pudding is done. You put it in a bigger container if you wish. At that stage, you could also put it in little ones, but you need to go mix it. It's a bit more messy. I prefer how they describe it in the recipe. So, put my things back. The good news about this way of doing it is then you can have portions as much as you want. This is supposed to be for 2 people, but it's already quite a lot. And, well, it's not a bad thing. So now you get to dish it out before serving. This is supposed to be technically for 2, but I think we can even stretch it to have it for 4 or more. Unless if you had a really big lunch or dinner, obviously it could be. And I've given in the book, I've given also the recipe for cashew cream. I don't have it right now. And so if you have cashew cream, you could put a dollop of it on top, which is really lovely. And then you could put raspberries or other berries of your choosing. And it becomes a nice, healthy, yummy recipe to share on Valentine's Day or any day, really. It could even be made overnight for having for breakfast. So who says you can't have chocolate pudding for breakfast? This is my recipe, everybody. I'm going to give it a taste test. It is so thick. Okay. If you like chocolate, you can. This is yummy. This time I've used normal chia seeds, but when I make it so that my husband would also eat it, I use powdered chia seeds, at which time it doesn't have the bubbly, crunchy chia seed in the mixture. And when you eat it, you don't feel it. So this time is all for me, even if it's for two people. So that's my recipe, everybody. I hope you will make it and enjoy it for this Valentine's Day or anytime you want an easy to make chocolate chia seed pudding. After me comes my friend Susanna Dickman in Evansville, Indiana, and she's gonna show you yet another chocolate pudding. I won't give away her secret, but it is a yummy, yummy one. So bye from Abu Dhabi and all the way to Indiana. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Jonna. Your pudding looks great. I can't wait to try it. Hi, everyone. I'm Susanna Dickman from Evansville, Indiana, and today I'm going to make a pudding, too. I'm going to make a real easy avocado chocolate pudding, and it's just one of my favorites. I always try to make sure I have some avocados around, and I love to make this pudding. So first thing we're going to start with, obviously, is avocados, and we want to make sure that they are ripe. And I'm just going to cut them in half, and oh my goodness, this one is perfect. I'm just going to go around and cut away and put it in my food processor. I forgot to mention when I introduced myself, I'm from Evansville, Indiana, and you can follow me on my website, Eat Plants, Be Well. I have a couple of classes coming up this next month in February, and also my husband and I have been for about a year doing Meatless Monday Evansville, where we get online on Facebook at 5:30 and we make a delicious plant-based recipe for you to enjoy. All right, let me go ahead and just cut away from my pit here. I like to save my pits because in the past I've grown avocado plants. I've gotten them to flower, so I love to do that. I'm probably going to do that again. There's half of my avocado. Let me get the rest out. And remember, you know, avocado is, we try to reduce our fat intake on a plant-based diet, but it is better to eat the foods with, you know, the fat. So to eat the avocado instead of avocado oil, it's better for you. And it's nice to sometimes indulge in a nice sweet treat. And this is a nice treat that we can share with family and friends. So let me get this out. There we go. I really lucked out this time. You know, with avocados, right? It's always not ripe, not ripe, not ripe, and then all of a sudden ripe, and then the next day, too late. So I was pretty lucky. All right, let me make sure I get everything out. And then I have one more side to get out. And there we go. All right. Here. Okay, I'm almost done. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one out. Now this one wasn't quite as ripe as the other ones, but that's okay. You can see it's still soft. It just was a little bit harder to get out. So it's perfectly fine. You know, your avocado doesn't have to be very, very, very done. That's good enough. And then I've got a little bit more in here to get out. All right, that is going to be what takes the longest. Let me grab a towel there. That's going to take the longest in making this pudding, is getting that out. To our 2 avocados, we're going to add a 1/2 cup of cacao powdered. And get that in. I like to use maple syrup as a sweetener. You can sub date syrup if you'd like to, and I'm going to put 2/3 of a cup. And oh, good, I knew my maple syrup container was getting empty, so I have another one here that I just opened. So 2/3 of a cup. You could, adjust the maple syrup to your taste. I don't like things really sweet, and for me, 2/3 of a cup is just sweet enough. But if you think it might be too sweet, you can, start with less and then add it. We're going to put 2 teaspoons of maple syrup, vanilla extract, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which the salt is optional. Yeah, you absolutely do not have to put it in if you're salt-free, but I think it just adds to the flavor. All right, now we're just going to process this. And let me stop it a minute, and I'm gonna look. You could have on hand up to a 1/2 cup of water, because sometimes, you can see that it's really thick. Now I don't like to make it too thin, so I am just going to add a splash of water, but you can add up to, maybe that was 2 tablespoons. You can add up to a 1/4 cup of water if you want to get it to be the texture that you want. Okay, I still see a few pieces of avocado down there that are not processed, but I think, in terms of time, I'm going to go ahead and just spoon it in, but you can process it a few minutes longer. I'd say maybe 4 minutes would be enough, but you can see it really is processed, and it's really smooth and creamy. If you want to add a little bit more water, you could do that, but that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and just spoon some up. You can see how creamy it is. This is the perfect special dessert that's easy and everyone will love. Just so good. I've even used this. I will make a vegan birthday cake, and I have used this as icing on the cake, or frosting on the cake. So, it's when I use it for frosting, I wouldn't put in any water, and you can see I barely put in 2 tablespoons of water, but it is so good. I like to serve mine with strawberries, fresh or frozen. We're gonna be, next, this coming week with Valentine's, strawberries are going to be available in abundance in the grocery stores. But just a nice little decadent sweet. I'm gonna taste it now. See how it is. It's so good. And just this little bit is enough, to give me that just kind of chocolatey flavor that I love. So I hope you make some chocolate avocado pudding for the special people in your life this Valentine's Day season, and hope to see you on Facebook on Mondays for Meatless Monday. Thanks again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to watch us at So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. We enjoy so much bringing you these shows each month, and we really appreciate you watching us. Next up is Carolyn. And Carolyn, I always love to see the recipes that you make, so take care, everyone. Bye.
Hi. Thanks. That looks so good, Suzanne. That looks fabulous. I am going to make something that's not chocolate. So I'm doing a key lime pie, key lime mousse pie, key lime pie mousse. That's it. Key lime pie mousse parfait. My husband is a big fan of key lime pie. And it's definitely something that's not always vegan when you find it at a restaurant. So I tried to figure out how could I make something that tastes like key lime pie, but isn't unhealthy. So real key lime pie has sweetened condensed milk and lots of egg yolk and stuff like that in it. So what we're doing instead is a key lime pie mousse and then putting it in cute little cups like this, little clear glass cups, and making parfaits. So I'm going to start with the key lime pie mousse. So the key ingredient in it is actually tofu, silken tofu. So it's not the same kind that you find in the refrigerated section, although I think you could use the silken kind that you find in the refrigerated section. This one is shelf stable. It's kind of hard to find in Montgomery, Alabama, so I tend to order mine online. But all right, so this is just one container of an organic silken tofu that I have drained. So make sure you kind of get as much liquid out of it as you can. So this sat kind of upside down draining for a few minutes. And then we're adding 1/3 of a cup of cashews. And these are the unroasted cashews. So you do want to boil them ahead of time for about 10 minutes or soak them overnight, especially if you don't have a high-speed blender. Even though I have a high-speed blender, I still do that because it makes them more plump and creamy. So that's 1/3 of a cup. Get them all out of there. And then 1/3 of a cup of agave nectar, which you could use maple syrup, but it's going to make your mousse a little bit darker. So put this down here where you can see it. Okay, so I use agave just because it's much lighter in color than maple syrup. So, but you could use maple syrup. All right, so that's, whoops, I just dropped it in there. All right, that's 1/3 of a cup of agave. And then we're doing also 1/3 of a cup of lime juice. And I'm actually using key lime juice. There is a difference between key lime juice and the juice you find from regular limes. So the ones we find in the grocery store here are Persian limes, or sometimes called Tahitian limes. In the United States, we refer to them just as limes, but great in guacamole and Mexican food. Key limes, unfortunately, aren't in season right now. So most citrus is actually in season in the winter or into the early spring months. Key limes are a little different. So they're grown in Mexico. They came from the Key West region, which is why they're used to be referred to as key limes. But they all died out down there, unfortunately. Now they really just grow in Mexico. So you could refer to them as Mexican limes, but key limes are much smaller. And they do have a distinct flavor that is a little bit different from our traditional Persian limes. You could just use regular lime juice or squeeze Persian limes and make this same recipe, but I was trying to make it a little more authentically key lime flavored. So I found actual key lime juice. The only ingredient in it is key lime juice. So it does have a little bit of a different flavor. So there's lots of other kinds of limes. There's finger limes, there's sweet limes, which I mistakenly ordered online at Misfits Market. And there's no tanginess whatsoever. There's no tartness. They are just sweet. So I've been puzzling over what to do with them, but you can actually just eat them like raw. You can't really just bite into a lime very easily. They're so sour, but a sweet lime you could. So lots of different kinds of limes. So for this, we're using key lime juice, and that's 1/3. Let me shake it up really well. It's 1/3 of a cup of key lime juice. There we go. And then, okay, so we have the tofu, the silken tofu. We have the cashews, we have the lime juice, the key lime juice, and we have the agave nectar. And then I'm just going to put in, so I'm going to grate the zest of a couple of limes. I know they're not key limes, but it's actually kind of hard to grate key limes because the outer skin on a key lime is really tough. So this just gives it kind of a green color and a little bit more zing of flavor. I'm using a zester like this. You could use any kind of zester you've got, but it's the zest of basically, 2 or 3 limes, just to give it a hint of flavor, a hint of color. See those little flecks of zest in it. It's really pretty. Okay. And you always, when you're zesting, want to make sure you get just the green part. So once you get to where you can see the white part, don't zest that because it can be really bitter. All right. That looks pretty good. And let me zest one more really quickly. Okay. Okay. So once this is all whirled up, we're going to have to leave it in the refrigerator for a while. Let's see. Okay. That's pretty good. All right. I would probably be a little more thorough if I weren't doing this live. Okay. And then we're going to whirl that all up for just a minute. Whoops. There we go. All right, so you want to make sure that you got all of the yumminess all down inside of it. So you might need to stop and scrape it out a few times. That looks pretty good though. It is very liquidy right now. So this does need to go in the refrigerator for a little bit. And I already have some that I refrigerated. So we'll get that out in just a second. And then the other thing that's going to be part of our parfait is a whipped cream topping. So this is actually an aquafaba whipped cream using, I'll show you how we do this. So it's actually the liquid from garbanzo beans. Aquafaba basically just means bean liquid. Aqua, water, faba is bean. So it sounds like it's fabulous water, but it's not. It's just bean water. So, and it works the best using chickpea or garbanzo bean liquid. So I already have some that I drained right here. So what you want to do is measure and see how much you have, but also strain it, because if there's any little pieces of chickpea skin in it, that would be kind of weird in your whipped cream. So just kind of pour it through a strainer and make sure you don't have any little chunks of beans in it. Okay, so that's strained, and that is right at 3/4 of a cup. So that would go into a high-speed KitchenAid kind of stand mixer, or you could use a handheld mixer if you have one and you don't have a KitchenAid. This is using this whisk attachment. So you would add that liquid and then cream of tartar. So depending on how much bean liquid you have, if you only have a half cup, then you might want to use 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. And then if you have, like I have 3/4 of a cup, I'm going to use about 1/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. So we'll just whip that up first and let it get stiff peaks. And then we add a little bit. I realized I looked at my recipe and I forgot the vanilla extract. So you don't have to put the vanilla extract in, but add maybe a half teaspoon of vanilla extract to it to give it that nice flavor. You could actually also, I was thinking about this earlier for this recipe, you could add coconut extract, which would be really, really good. Make it really tropical flavored. Anytime you're making this kind of aquafaba whipped cream, you could add any other flavoring to it, like maple or cinnamon extract or lemon extract. That would be really good. So any kind of extract you have, and then you'll let it whip for several minutes, because at first it's just really liquidy like this. And then once you whip it for quite a while, like 4 or 5 minutes, it actually gets these stiff peaks. And then you're going to add some kind of sweetener to it. So you could add, I think Dilip was talking earlier about monk fruit sweetener. I think you could probably add a little maple syrup, although it's going to make your whipped cream a little more liquidy. You could use agave. Again, it'll make it a little more liquidy. You could use powdered sugar. You know, I know we don't like to use a lot of refined sugars. If you are using powdered sugar, you might want to sift it really well first with one of these old-fashioned sifters so it doesn't have big lumps in it. And so I did add a little bit of powdered sugar to it, but it's not a huge amount. So with 3/4 of a cup of the liquid, I added maybe 1/3 of a cup or so of powdered sugar. So what you'll do is just let it whirl and whirl and whirl for about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on so I can kind of demonstrate what that looks like. After about 3 or 4 minutes of doing that is when you would then add the vanilla extract and whatever type of sweetener you're using. Just make sure it's not like something that's a really heavy grain to it, like a turbinado sugar or something, because that will just deflate your whipped cream. You can actually make powdered sugar out of things like date sugar or coconut sugar. Just put it in a high-speed blender and whirl it until it's a fine powder, and you could use that instead. So that would be really good. But it is like such a crazy science experiment to me every time. Look at this, how thick it is. I mean, it doesn't even fall off the spoon. It's just so thick and creamy. So, and like I said, you can play with it, play with your food and make it, you know, any flavor you want. It could be just plain. You could use coconut extract, lemon extract, that kind of thing. But it's really pretty tasty too. All right, so we're going to put together our parfaits. One of the things that key lime pie has in it is graham crackers, like usually a graham cracker crust. So I found these, you can make your own graham crackers for sure. There's lots of recipes out there to make vegan graham crackers. I found these really cool graham crackers at Fresh Market, Partake graham crackers, which are gluten-free, vegan, have a hint of cinnamon. They're kosher, they're non-GMO, so and they're gluten-free, which is pretty cool. So your friends, you know, who don't eat gluten could have these too. So I took a bunch of them and crushed them up into little crumbles, and you don't have to make it into a complete powder. Little chunks are still perfectly fine. And then, so we're going to start by, this is my mousse that I made earlier. If I can get the lid off, let's see. Okay, there we go. So it has definitely thickened up. It's not as liquidy as it was before. And then we'll take one of our cute little cups. You could use a champagne glass. That would be really festive if you're having a little Valentine's Day party. Put some of the crumbles in the bottom. And then a little bit of the key lime pie mousse. There we go. And maybe a few spoonfuls of the aquafaba whip. Oh, if I can get it in there. Okay, there we go. And maybe a little bit more of the cracker crumbles and a little bit more of the mousse. Nice layers. All right, and then more of the aquafaba whip. If I could get it off of there. Okay, it's very thick. Okay, and then you could top it off with some more cracker crumbles and then serve it to someone you love. So I'm going to hand this to my husband and let him try it. So, look how pretty though. Isn't that beautiful? There we go. So pretty. And just the perfect size little cups. So if you have any old glass containers, a champagne glass, something like that, a martini glass, that would be really cool. Instead of drinking a martini, have that. All right, there you go. Let my husband taste it and see if it's good. I have a feeling he's going to like it. What do you think? He says, Okay. It has a mouthful. All right. So I'm not going to be able to stay for Q&A today. I have to be somewhere, unfortunately, in just a little bit. But do ask a question during the Q&A, and you'll be entered in a drawing for some really great prizes today. And next month, we're March 10th, and we'll be doing breakfast foods. And Cody and Dilip and I actually met up in early January before we all got on a cruise together, and we filmed our portion already. So that'll be really fun to watch making pancakes in an Airbnb. And now I'm going to send you over to Karen, and I can't wait to see what you're making, Karen. Good to see you.
Karen, we can't hear you.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. So welcome to my kitchen in Austin, Texas. I'm gonna make a a berry cheesecake. You can use any kind of berries. Doesn't have to even be 3 kinds of berries. Yeah, I'm using 2. And I'm gonna just lower my screen and show you the ingredients. First, it's a really healthy dessert, and it's fun to make, and you'll be surprised at how easy it is to put it together. So I went ahead in advance. I made the crust because I had medjool dates and oats, rolled oats, and then I just put it in the food processor until it started to stick together. I pressed it into the pie plate, and then I baked it for 15. You can bake it for up to 15 minutes. You need to check it after 10 minutes because it might, if it's like burning, it's going to stick to your dish. Or you could put a piece of parchment paper under it, but 15 minutes was good for my oven. And the dates are a sweetener, but they're a whole food sweetener. They have all the vitamins and minerals, the antioxidants that help your body use that sugar that's in them. And then the oats are full of fiber. So this whole dessert is full of fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and low in sugar. And one of the things that I use, this is going to be part of the base, is Japanese sweet potato. So it's sweet and creamy. It's got the fiber and the antioxidants. And then I also have, you can use any kind of plant yogurt. So that's going to make it creamy, like cheesecake. And I'm just going to go ahead and put these in the blender. I don't know if you can. There you go. So that's my base. And look at those berries. We have I'm using raspberries and blueberries, and they're frozen. And the berries have lots of antioxidants. And you can use any kind of berries. I'm using the raspberries. It's going to be like a 3-layer cheesecake. So the only sweetener so far in here is the sweet potato. And then I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla because that's really good. So the yogurt, in addition to making it creamy, gives it that tartness like you would have in a cheesecake. And I am going to you don't have to, but I'm just going to add a pinch of salt, not even a pinch. Just brings out the sweetness. So what I'm going to do is blend this up. So the other ingredients that I have, I have date sugar. So you see it's a little bit beige. So I'm going to blend this up to keep it as light as I can. And that's going to be my first layer to give it that white layer. And then when I put these berries in, it's going to be a pink layer. So it's going to be mildly sweet on the bottom, but this crust is plenty sweet with the dates. And then for the top layer, I'm going to add blueberries, more antioxidants, more flavor. And I'm also going to add the date sugar, which is just ground dates, dried and ground. And so with the darkness of the blueberries, this isn't going to change that color, and the top layer will be really sweet. So if you wanted to, you could put this in and sweeten the whole thing right now. But it will make your bottom layer a little bit more beige and the middle layer a little bit less pink. So I'm going to mute myself. I won't forget to turn it off of mute when I come back. I'm just going to mute it while I blend this. I'm going to move it over so you guys can see it. All right, here we go. Okay, so it's nice and creamy. The last ingredient I forgot to talk about is it's agar powder, and it's an extract from a seaweed. So you're going to get, there's no calories, there's no sugars in it. It's a fiber, and it's going to thicken this. So you get the minerals from the seaweed. I have a little bit of water here, and I'm going to just dissolve the powder in the room temperature water. So I'm going to do that first, and dissolve it in the water, and then I'm going to go and heat it, stirring it the whole time that I'm heating it for about 1 minute, and it's going to thicken. I'm going to come back and pour it into the blender, and that's what's going to make this whole cheesecake set up. It's still going to be creamy. It's like a gelatin, like a vegan gelatin, but it doesn't, how gelatin needs the refrigerator it needs to be refrigerated, set up, and if you leave it out, it'll melt, kind of dissolve. This sets up outside of the refrigerator, and it doesn't have to be refrigerated. But I like a cold cheesecake, so I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. All right, so while I go warm this up on the stove, I'm going to let Dilla tell you about the prizes for today, and then I'll be right back in 1 minute.
Yeah, that sounds good. So we're giving away 2 prizes today. So the first prize is these wonderful organic dates from California. It's a company called Oasis Date Gardens, I believe. And Carolyn actually introduced me to those dates. They're so good. And the other giveaway is a magazine subscription to, I think, Karen, we're giving away the VRG Vegan Journal, which is a year-long subscription. It's a wonderful magazine. It's to the point. It's great matter of fact kind of information. So we'll be giving that away. And so to win, after Karen, we'll have our Q&A. So we'll have a discussion, and then starting from the Q&A, any questions that come up, I'll write down your name, and then we'll do a drawing, and 2 people will win. So those are the prizes. Everything's looking great so far, Karen. Looking forward to seeing how you complete this.
Yeah, just need this to boil real quick. I was going to say that magazine is a quarter that comes out quarterly. So
oh yes, it's quarterly. That's right. Yeah.
We'll send your name in, and then it will start at the next printing.
That's right. So while we're waiting for Karen, I'll put this up as well. Is when we do the drawing, we need your address, but please don't post it on social media. But send it to us. I'll bring the document up. The message up. Send it to Karen. I'll put it up right now. Of course, you haven't won yet, but if you will win a prize, then acknowledge and say, I'm here. And then we will email. Here I say email myself and copy Karen. It should be email Karen and copy me. And I'll put this message up again. So any other questions while we're waiting for Karen to come back? She's waiting for something to boil. We're going to have a shorter Q&A than usual. So something came up both with Carolyn and Susanna, and Jeanne. But we have a surprise guest, and he or she's in the green room. I'll let you find out what the surprise is soon. But let's go back to Karen.
All right, thanks, Dilla.
Sure.
Okay, so you can see how thick this got really quick. And as it cools, it will thicken even more. It'll set this cheesecake. So what I'm going to do now is pour it into the blender and blend it into my mixture. Right, and it has no flavor again. Right. Just going to help set it up. Right. So I'm going to mute myself again while I blend. All right, so now I'm going to pour about a third of this into the crust. So that's going to be my mildly sweet bottom layer. It's nice when you have the right tools for the job. It makes things a lot easier. And you can see it's already setting up. Right. And then I'm going to put the raspberries in. So I measured them when they were frozen, and then they thaw out, and it seems like less, but it will color them and flavor the middle layer. All right, I'm going to blend. And we have a pretty pink layer. So I'm going to put half of this. Yep, I didn't realize. And then to top it, I'm going to have fresh berries, which is really nice, but you could also just hold back a little bit of the crust and crumble it on top. Right. And then I'm going to add the blueberries. And the date sugar. All right. So this top layer is going to be nice and sweet. I'm going to blend one more time. Right, and then we have a darker layer on top. Usually I use a bigger pie plate and make the crust come all the way up the sides. So you can see it really is already setting up. And then you can decorate it with whatever berries you choose. I could have gotten blueberries and raspberries. You can cover the whole thing or just put them around the outside, just whatever you like. Just for time's sake, I'm just going to do this right now. And then I would chill it for about 4 hours, at least 4 hours. And then what it comes, I just made a small one before that I've had in the refrigerator. And I don't know if you can see the different colors. Comes out, and it's just a really good. And this one I did top with some extra crust that I had held back. So anyway, that's the berry cheesecake, whole food, plant-based. And if you try it, let us know how you like it. And now we're going to go to Q&A. So ask some questions and get entered in for the prize, dates, or the magazine subscription. I'm going to give it back to Dilla.
Thanks, Karen. And I'm going to also bring on the stage. We're really lucky that we have Mark Cirkvenik with us. And we haven't seen you in a while, Mark. So thanks for dropping in today.
Oh, glad to be here. You caught me at a really good time. I was working on my menu for Yosemite, an upcoming tour in May. So good timing. And my new hat from Puerto Rico. I was just in Puerto Rico on vacation. Do I look like I belong in Puerto Rico now?
Maybe so. So let's get to the Q&A, and I know Karen at some point is, everybody had conflicts today, so I want it not to just be me in Q&A, so I hope, Karen, you can stick around for a few minutes, and of course, Mark as well is here. So so the first question is for Lee, and at this point, all questions that come in, we're going to write your name down, and you'll be in the drawing for our prizes. So Lee, it's good to see you again. Is date sugar better than coconut sugar? So let's see if Karen can take that one.
Sure, I think it is because it was just the whole dates and it's dried and ground. And with the coconut sugar is like the sap dried and powdered. So it's a little more processed.
Can you talk about it from a health point of view?
Yeah, it has no the coconut sugar wouldn't have as much fiber as the ground dates, and so then the fiber helps you use the sugar. It keeps that sugar from just going into your bloodstream so fast.
Now, a lot of questions are coming about monk fruits. Let's put Paula's name down. I wanted to say a couple things about monk fruit. I've been chatting with Brenda Davis as late as last night on this topic because when we were on the cruise, Carolyn pointed out to me, I didn't know this, that Michael Greger was expressing reservations about using monk fruit extract. And I know Karen knows more about this than I do. So let me say a little bit and then see if Karen, and for that matter, Mark as well, if you want to add to this. Let me repeat what I said in the document, that monk fruit has no glycemic index, and it has the sweetness of sugar. And so the big disadvantage is it's expensive. It's expensive. And the other disadvantage is if you get used to adding sweeteners and you're out and about someplace and you say, well, this is good, but I want some sweetener, and we can't find monk fruit extract, so your taste buds say, I want sugar. That's the other downside. But there's a new downside, which both Karen and Mark can speak more to, and that is that Michael Greger is saying that often erythritol is added. And I don't know why erythritol is added or what the purpose is, but there have been some studies that erythritol is not so good for you, but they're not conclusive. So what I will say is this, is we want to use dates, and if you need to, maple syrup. Those don't seem to have any danger associated with them. In fact, dates don't increase your glycemic index. And if you're using just a few teaspoons, which is what I did in my recipe, you need something like that to get the tartness out of the berries. Then are there disadvantages with monk fruit extract? There could be, but with such a small quantity, if you're having a couple teaspoons once a week, couple times a week, even if there are some problems, I think we're probably okay. But Mark or Karen, would you like to speak more about monk fruit extract?
I'll tell you why they add that erythritol. So the erythritol is a sugar alcohol, but it's so the monk fruit is, like, depending on the extract that you buy, it can be 150 to 250 or even 300 times sweeter than sugar. and it gives you a little bitter aftertaste like stevia can. And so they put it in, the erythritol is more like sugar, flavored more like sugar. That's why they mix that. And the even though so the erythritol is like the sugar alcohol that gives you the least amount of stomach upset because it's absorbed in the small intestine and then most of it is eliminated really quickly. But it still can cause a little bit of stomach upset. And there haven't been there were more studies recently. So first it was kind of like causation or correlation does not mean causation. And then they did some studies in like test tubes.
Causation does not imply correlation.
Right. But then they did more studies after that. Just it does kind of cause the platelets to become sticky, and it can in the petri dish, I guess. It can. They were thinking it could lead to blood clots. There hasn't been a lot of information or a lot of research yet, a lot of studies. But, the monk fruit, there haven't been a lot of studies either, but there's not, it's been used in Chinese medicine for ages, and they don't really have any side effects. Like it's from the gourd family, and if you're allergic to something in the gourd family, you might have an allergy to monk fruit, but it's not.
I like getting monk fruit extract. We so rarely, when I added sweeteners for like my lemonade, I like to make lemonade with some carbonated water, lemon juice, and I usually add maple syrup. But sometimes if we don't have maple syrup, a little bit of monk fruit extract, but it's harder to dissolve. And I also keep it on hand because my daughter enjoys making cookies. She doesn't do it often. She does it 3 times a year, 4 times a year. And when you make cookies, some recipes, it's difficult to get away from some sort of sugar. So when we do use sugar, and it's not that often, then it's a turbinado, minimally processed sugar. But I encourage her to, instead of using the sugar, to use the monk fruit extract. So again, go on, Mark.
Yeah, no, thanks. So I'm just kind of reflecting on the conversation here, and then Paula had asked, "Can I use monk fruit for the sugar in the recipe?" So one of the things that I found, and this is a Chef AJ tip trick, if you will. So I love her sweet potato mousse. If anybody's ever made her sweet potato mousse, it has 0 processed simple sugars in it. The sweetener that she uses in that recipe is pears, roasted pears. So when pears are roasted, they get really nice and sweet. And I have tried roasted pears as a sugar replacement in other recipes, and it just works wonderful. So one of the things that I'm kind of got the tour on my brain here. One of the things with recipes in general is, when you're asking about substituting things. So first of all, know that any of these recipes that you try, they might not turn out exactly the way you want the first time, just because maybe you didn't follow the recipe exactly, or you missed an ingredient, or you didn't add enough of an ingredient, or your little personal touch, or you don't really like the taste of it. So sub something else, in it. When we're making a recipe for folks on our tours, my wife and I will go through 6 or 7 iterations before we really kind of dial it in. There's a lot of reasons we do that, but the number one is that we want to make the best version of that recipe. So Paul, and to anybody else, monk, you try it. If you don't like it, try something else. I love dates. So I think, Bill, to your point, turbinado sugar, we use dates, and there's my dog Alexi barking in the background. But turbinado, dates, and agave are kind of the three sugars that we use. And then I sub in the pears, the roasted pears.
So yeah, all these are good choices. Again, for it's best to, and if we have time, we can talk a little bit more about the health disadvantages of adding non-natural sweeteners, like why adding sugar is not a good thing. It can contribute certainly to diabetes, but also obesity and actually many other conditions. In the Food for Life program, we take a harder stance on fat, though, rather than sugar. So we can talk about that. But there's a lot of good questions coming in. So Paula said she uses dates, and Paula went on to ask another question about that, and she said, actually, that's what she was saying. Janet makes a point, and Janet, turn it into a question. You can be in the drawing. So the studies I've seen is you can eat dates, you can snack on dates, and your glycemic index doesn't go up. Now, Brenda has cautioned me with that. She said you don't want to eat like a tub full of dates, but if you're eating 3 or 4 or 5 dates, there really should be no issue. And all of our comments obviously are in the context of talk to your healthcare provider.
Right.
But in general, dates should not be a problem. So, Janet, I
Yeah.
love dates. My daughter just walked in. She could tell you I'm about to order some dates from Oasis Dates, and I sometimes order the Bari, which are like caramel. She was telling me I think it was 20 pounds I ordered. I can't remember how much I ordered at a time, but we love these dates. Mark wants
Well,
to say something.
and the dates thing, it's really interesting. So when I first became whole food plant based, it's 6 years now, just 6 years in February, beginning of February. I dropped like 25 pounds immediately, and then another 10 kind of hung on, or actually the next 20 hung on, and it was a couple things. The number one thing, I mean, I think it was Janet's comments was I was eating dates like they were candy. So I'd sit there and pop 10 dates, and it's 600 calories, right? There's 60 calories per date. So calories are still calories, even though that's one of my cautions when you hear people in the whole food plant-based world say, don't worry about counting calories. Well, yeah, you got to kind of watch your calorie intake. Food calories are calories. Food is food. So if you overeat dates and overeat anything, and if you eat more calories than your body needs, you're not going to lose weight, or you're not going to expend the weight.
But
Thing with whole food plant-based eating is that you will get fuller quicker because of the fiber. So
Yeah, and let me emphasize that is generally, and in our classes, we do say that we ask you not to necessarily rate limit because of the high fiber content, because there's only so much you can eat. So, so we have much less of a focus on calories, in spite of, Mark did give some good cautions as well about it.
yeah, and the thing that Dr. Neil Barnard talks about is if you still are struggling with your food intake, despite eating whole food plant-based, you might want to talk to a professional psychologist, psychiatrist, because there might be some other issues going on, eating disorders issues and things like that. So if you're still really struggling with your food intake and the amount of food that you're eating, could be other issues going on too.
Linda asks if we can make our own date syrup. Absolutely. So just blend some dates, and it's going to really, if you just blend it, you'll get chopped dates, which is nice to put on top of oatmeal, for example. And if you want a syrup, then you would add a little bit of water, and then you would liquefy it. And if you want, you can try adding some unsweetened plant milk as well, and then you can get kind of a slurry. That'd be another way to do it. Janet has turned hers into a question. So Janet Doe, how do you keep from eating too many dates? So Janet, you are number 4 in our list of people who can
lock them up. Lock them up, put them away. You know what? I'd be quite honest. So one of my difficult foods to have in the house is nut butter, almond butter, natural peanut butter. So we do use it for some recipes. I literally have my wife hide it, so I don't know where it's at. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not perfect, So if somebody could hide it for you, that's a great thing. Or just keep enough in the house that for a recipe and give the rest away.
Well, I would say don't hide them and enjoy the dates, because, as I said, the studies show that it doesn't increase the glycemic index.
Well, if you eat too much, though, and you're concerned about gaining weight.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I buy 20 pounds at a time, but I put it in the refrigerator in a sealed bag, and we take out, a few pounds at a time. And
you're a better man than me, Charlie Brown.
That'll last us months and months, but I save on shipping. So, of course, Janet, talk to your own healthcare provider, but generally, you can enjoy dates. Ernest, good to see you, Ernest. Question for Ernest: is the monk fruit sweetener we have is the powder? How does it translate to liquid? I don't know. Do either of you guys know?
Is it the white powder?
Yeah, Ernest, this is the white one.
I mean, if it's the white, most monk fruit powders, you can just tap a few. They're all different in terms of how sweet they are. So usually I'll just tap a little bit into whatever, if I'm sweetening hot tea or whatever, and taste it. And if you need some more, tap a little bit more. Just need very little.
Phyllis, thanks. It's good to see you. I think you may be new to our show, so I'd be interested to know how you found us. I'm glad you did. So welcome, Phyllis, to the show. And I saw you had asked some questions earlier about cacao, and I think we've answered that. John answered that. But now you have a question, and now you're number 6 for the drawing, so thanks for asking. do you use the same amount of date paste when substituting recipes calling for maple syrup?
I mean, I do. I'll
Yeah.
start there, and and if it's too sweet, next time you make it, add less, or or add more. I mean,
Yeah, you have to taste it, but it's going to be more. So there's two things to think about when you like the texture, uh, and also the flavor. It's going to be less sweet than the maple syrup.
right.
Maple syrup's more concentrated. But yeah, just start with the same amount and taste it.
You know what I do is a lot of Americans, I think we're probably many of you who are watching and as presenters are counterexamples. The American palate, the general world palate, has been deadened to sweetness, and we're used to really sweet things. So if you're going from a standard American diet and suddenly you're eating, eating the way we're suggesting, you'll find maybe the food isn't that sweet. But if you're eating the way we are, the date is just so luscious. It tastes so great. Fruit tastes wonderful. Watermelon, peaches, pears, all these things taste great. If you're eating sugar-laden foods, candy bars, and all sorts of things, then some of these foods won't taste so sweet to you. So part of it is acculturating your tongue to more natural tastes. And by the way, Ernest has commented that he uses both golden and white drops.
Uh, powdered. Is it if it's not combined with the erythritol, it's going to be really really sweet. And yeah, just start with a tiny.
Couple drops.
tiny
And that was the thought I was going to complete, is that everybody has a different sweetness threshold. So with all these things, start less than the recipe calls for, try it, and then you can add a little bit more. You can always add more, and it's hard to take away.
Right.
Linda makes a comment. Her go-to dessert, I'm about to sneeze, is dates.
And nut butter,
Oh,
yeah, I
sweet.
love that. It's chocolate chips, boy, that is just talk about sweet. I could have like one of those, and whew, sends me through the roof.
Yeah, very nice. All right, there are a couple more questions. Let's see. Here's a great question. New person, Juliana. Welcome to our show. We haven't seen you, and wonder if you're new. Let us know how you found us. We're so glad. And we apologize. We've been having some weird technical issues for a couple months. Starting in November, we were not streaming to Facebook. And so we've been kind of telling people, we've been posting on Facebook, check us out on YouTube. And I don't know why it didn't stream on YouTube. Karen was following along to answer questions, and she sent me a message. Can't find YouTube. I don't know what happened. So something strange is going on with the technology. That's a good reason we have multiple platforms. But anyhow, Juliana, welcome to the show. And your question is, how long can you store these recipes? So it depends on the recipe. My recipe with the bananas, I would eat right away because you want the warm banana. And if you're saying, well, I'd rather just cook all the bananas and then clean up the pan, you can do that and then reheat it, but you're going to lose something. The bananas really are great right away, fresh. So mine is probably a counterexample. Karen, did you want to talk about yours? And some of the recipes, like the puddings, taste better if you refrigerate them and let them sit for a while.
Yeah, I can show. I mean, this is set up right now because I just tried to put some more berries on, and it's already set up, so it's not gonna, hold any more berries. But I like it in the refrigerator for about 4 hours to chill, and then it can stay in the refrigerator for about a week. It probably won't be around that long, but it would be fine.
Yeah, a lot of things they taste better if you let them sit for several hours. You don't have to, but if you can, that's nice. And sometimes the flavor improves. But a lot of these puddings and all are good if you let them sit overnight. But still, if you finish them in 2 or 3 days, would anybody disagree? Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, these recipes, yeah, especially when you have like a crust on it, it's going to kind of get
Soggy.
Yeah, some of the other whole food plant-based dishes. I mean, I was just laughing to myself when we were in Puerto Rico. We came home a week ago this past Tuesday. I made a scramble while we were in Puerto Rico. I brought some home, and I just finished it up this morning. So, I mean, some dishes will last pretty long.
Everybody scrambled for your dish.
I had a big scramble for my dish.
And Juliana found us by looking for PCRM. And so if you're looking for classes in your area, look for fflclasses.org. And if you are interested in becoming a Food for Life instructor, Physicians Committee does do certification classes. And I think they've already announced, PCRM's announced what the upcoming dates are for certification. You have to apply, and then there's like about 300 of us. Question from Linda. is the chocolate pudding with avocado. How long does it last? So again, puddings, we kind of answered that it will probably taste better if you let it sit for a little while. And if you, I would eat the pudding within 3 or 4 days. Karen, we're going to do the drawing soon. I know you're anxious to get to an event. If you feel you need to go, I think Mark and I can finish up the
Yeah.
show. We'd love to have you, but I know you have you should be at this event because you're so. So
Started. All right.
thanks so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Yep. See you. So I think we have 7 names, and this is your last chance. We'll keep going for a little longer after this, but last chance to ask questions for the drawing. I have Lee, number 1, Paula, number 2, Linda, number 3, Janet, number 4, Ernest, 5, Phyllis, 6, and Juliana, number 7. So, Mark, would you do me a favor?
Sure.
When I do the drawing, would you write down the name of the winner?
Sure.
And if you don't mind posting it on Facebook, say congratulations to Onion John for winning the onion peel or whatever it is, right? Then we'll have a record of it, just the first name. And
Sounds like
again,
a horror movie character, Onion John.
no, Onion John's actually a wonderful piece of fiction.
Oh, I don't know Onion John.
Yeah, I read it when I was like, and my daughter read it too. I read it when I was like in 4th or 5th or 6th grade.
Onion John.
and I used to. Oh, and Bonnie had a question. Yeah, I used. I think when I read it, I lived near you. I was in the Chicago area.
Is that right?
So Bonnie, you are number 8. That's right. You did ask a question. So we now have 8 people in the drawing: Lee, Paula, Linda, Janet, Ernest, Phyllis, Julianne, and Bonnie. And and Judith. Hello, Judith. Good to see you. So Judith is number 9. So Judith is asking, what is the best chocolate to use? So chocolate, we were thinking of having a show just about chocolate. Chocolate does have some health benefits, but often the health benefits are lost. A lot of it's lost because of the added milks or sugars. So if you love chocolate, the best chocolate is cacao, which is the dried cacao shell. I'll tell you, if you've never had cacao, you probably won't like it because it's very bitter initially. I don't drink alcohol. The rare times I actually sample alcohol, I don't know anything about it. It all tastes the same to me. It tastes spoiled, it's like spoiled grape juice or whatever, right? And so you may feel the same way. If it's the first time that you have cacao, you'll say this is really bitter, but it's the pure essence of chocolate. So that would be the best chocolate. Now, if you're eating a chocolate bar, look for a chocolate that there's many vegan chocolates, and pick one that you like, but just be aware that they can be addicting. That's my one addiction. After eating dinner, I have a slight desire to have some chocolate. So in terms of what's the best chocolate, that's, if you're looking for bars, look for something that's vegan, and you can get no sugar chocolates, but that's one of my 2 downfalls are chocolate and orange juice and tangerine juice. I eat it, but I should eat more of it and drink less of it because you lose the fiber. So, but cacao would be a great way to go. And yeah, that's a great plug for Mark. Did you want to take a second and talk about your wonderful journeys? Or tell you what, let's do the drawing, and then we'll spend a few minutes talking about that.
Yeah. Could I just chime in real quick about the chocolate issue?
Yeah.
So a couple things in terms of sourcing chocolate. So first of all, Trader Joe's has a really good chocolate chips. They're semi-sweet, and there's also dark chocolates. So Trader Joe's, and they're vegan. And the cacao that I find, you can pretty much find anywhere in the continental U.S. thanks to our friends at Walmart. Walmart has a sustainable chocolate that's out of Madison, Wisconsin, actually Middleton, Wisconsin, and it's sustainable, and they don't use child labor. You got to be real careful. I know we've talked quite a bit in the past about child labor in chocolate, and it's probably one of the most abusive industries to children is chocolate farming. So be cautious of that as well. But Walmart and Trader Joe's are 2 great sources for sustainable chocolates.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you're buying chocolate, make sure that it's sustainable. And there's an app I have on my phone, and it lists chocolates that are sustainable. I forgot what the app is called.
Oh, wow.
So let's do the drawing. After the drawing, let's have Mark talk about his tours. And also, Carolyn, before she left, she had some unfortunate thing that she had to leave quickly. But what she did, she sent me a message about the aquafaba. So let's have a short discussion on aquafaba. Mark's an expert at that, and he did one of the shows he did something with aquafaba. So let's do the drawing. Let's let me read what Carolyn has said about Aquafaba, and then turn it over to Mark to talk more about Aquafaba and talk a little bit more about his tours, and then we'll wrap up with any final questions. So Mark, you're going to be the writer, and let me
I'm
just
writing.
write here. If you win, please email Karen at so many cooks.com, and I'll put my name too, Dilip at so many cooks.com with your name and mailing address and what you won. Okay, so let me put that up here. So yeah, if you win, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use random.org, and I won't be able to see you for a minute, and I'm going to plug in, please give me a random number between 1 and 9. So, okay, good. So 1 and 9, and then if you win, we'll say the numbers, and then you don't get to win a second time. So if we draw the same number, we'll draw again. Okay, so here goes. So the first prize is Oasis Date Gardens. They have a lovely collection. I'm about to order my own because we're out of 6 choices of date varieties. If you win, we're going to send you the link, and we're going to invite you to pick 6 varieties you'd like. And if you don't pick, we'll pick for you, or we'll let them pick for you. But I do highly recommend you get Bari. In fact, I recommend you get 2 of your 6. I recommend be Bari. Bari is so good. So you get try 6 dates. They have something like 20 different date varieties. They're all organic, and they're so good. All right, so the winner of the dates is, from 1 to 9, number 7. So 7 is Juliana. So congratulations. Let us know that you're here, Juliana.
Juliana. What's Juliana's last name? Do we have Juliana?
Let's see. Let's look at our comments. Juliana Bianes for winning the dates.
All right.
Okay, are you here, Juliana? So congratulations, Juliana. So we'll give Juliana a moment. If she dropped, then we're going to draw again. So we'll give her a second to acknowledge that she's here. So let us know, Juliana, that you're watching, and we will get you. These dates are so good. They're to die for. I tell you how I found out about them is Carolyn sent them to me as a gift for one of my birthdays. And ever since then, I've been buying them for others as well. So Juliana, please chime in and tell you what we'll do is we'll do the second drawing for the magazine. And if Juliana if she doesn't chime in by then, what do you say, Mark? We just draw again. We'd like to give it to Juliana, but if you're not there, then there's no way to get the prize.
Winner needs to be present.
Winner needs to be present. Okay, so we're waiting on Juliana. So let me go ahead and do the drawing for the magazine subscription. The Vegetarian Resource Group's a great group. I've known them for decades. I actually went to college in Baltimore, and I think I met them when because they're in Baltimore. Didn't know them well then, but now I do. So Deborah and Charles Stoller and his wife Deborah, they're just wonderful folks, and they have a great magazine. Okay, so let's draw for the magazine, and if Juliana doesn't respond, we'll draw for the dates again. So the winner of the magazine is number 2. So 2 is Paula Proctor. Congratulations to Paula for winning the VRG magazine subscription. So
I think Paula's probably been here more than you, Dilip, isn't she?
No, not. She's a regular, which is great. I'm glad that we're there. So I'm glad we have her here.
Paula.
So Paula, please acknowledge, and we'll get you your subscription. I think we better draw for the dates. I'm sorry, Juliana does not seem to be here. So let's try for the dates again. And Paula, please do acknowledge that you won the magazine subscription. And I'll just ask one more time, is Juliana here? If not, let's draw again. And Paula, please. Okay. Oh, Paula's won a subscription. Okay. All right, that sounds good. So we will draw again. Okay. So let's draw for the magazine again. And the winner is...
This is for the dates.
3. Right? No, this is for the magazine again.
Oh.
3. So 3 is Linda Pittman. Congratulations, Linda Pittman, for the VRG magazine subscription. Right. So Linda, please confirm that you're here. and then you'll need to send an email. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and draw for the dates again, because it seems like Juliana is not here. So let's draw for the dates again. Okay, so Linda, acknowledge that you're here, and let's draw for the dates. So our winner is number 9. Number 9 is Judith. Now, Judith, you do have, okay, good. So Linda's here. So Linda, do email us your details. You won the magazine subscription, and Judith is here. Now, Judith, you're in the Caribbean, and I'm not positive they can ship to the Caribbean. But as I recall, you have an address in Miami, too. So please confirm we need to ship it to the United States to not just the continental. I think you can go to Hawaii and Alaska. And if you're in the Caribbean, I don't think that customs allows them to send it there. So, okay, you do have U.S. Okay, good. So Judith, please email us a U.S. address. You will get through United Parcel Service in about 5 to 7 days. You'll get some luscious dates. So I hope that you're able to retrieve the package soon. So the dates go to Judith, and the magazine subscription goes to Linda. So please send us email. I'll be checking my email, make sure I got the email from you guys. And Mark, just to keep me straight, if you don't mind, also emailing me who won both. That'd be great. So let's wrap up in a few minutes. Let me ask Mark his expertise about aquafaba, and then let Mark share more about his journeys. So Carolyn, of course, had to run, and she sent me a message. She said, I forgot to, because I asked her, do you need this fancy equipment, this fancy blender? And we'll see what Mark has to say about that. She said, I forgot to point out that aquafaba whipped cream doesn't do well stored in the refrigerator. Yeah. It's best used right away. If there are leftovers, it's best to store in the freezer in something airtight. So Mark, why don't you, thanks Judith, why don't you take over and tell us a little bit about aquafaba?
Yeah, so aquafaba, use it or lose it, basically, you know. You want to whip it up, you can use your hand blender or an immersion blender, or you know, a kitchen stand blender. Going to take, I think Carolyn says in her recipe, takes about 5 minutes to kind of get the stiff peaks. You want stiff peaks, and cream of tartar really kind of helps the peaks hold. Kind of the traditional classic dessert is for you know, whipped cream is using certainly cream or with egg whites, right? And cream of tartar is frequently added to those. So we do add cream of tartar. So one of the questions that people frequently ask is, are you going to get a bean flavor when you're using the aquafaba, so that viscous liquid that comes out of a can of chickpeas? And you don't, and that's why we want you to use chickpea water, is because it is a neutral flavor. There is no flavor, and then by the time you add a little bit of that organic powdered sugar, or even some agave, or some maple syrup, even it's going to be nice and sweet and everything. So so use this is kind of the type of thing where if you're making Carolyn's recipe, for example, you're going to make it, you're going to assemble it right there. You're going to whip the whipped cream up. You're going to assemble the each parfait and serve it. The next day you could store it. It's probably going to start deflating, and it's just not going to be as creamy. So a little quick trivia to share with your friends. Where did aquafaba originate? It actually originated, I think it was like about 2018 or 2017, something like that. A gentleman, he's an engineer in South Bend, Indiana, Notre Dame, Indiana, and wanted some substitute for whipped cream, and found that the aquafaba uses it. You can use other viscous bean liquid, but it's going to be brown. You might get a little bit of that bean flavor. So your chickpea is your best bet. You can actually make you can really use it for any recipe that calls for egg whites. So if you're trying to convert a traditional recipe, they use whipped egg whites. You can certainly use aquafaba for that as well. If anybody out there is fans of the Great British Baking Show, there was a season about 3 or 4 seasons ago. There was a vegan chef. She was one of the participants, and she made some of the classic English dishes with using aquafaba. She's actually got a recipe book out now as well, and we borrowed it from the library. It's it's pretty good. It doesn't use necessarily all whole food, but also give you some ideas on how you can use that for flavor.
Wanted to share two things. I just got a message. First of all, Janet mentioned she doesn't like the smell of chickpeas. So beans are super, super important to eat, and there's so many kinds of beans. So I hope, Janet, there's many beans that you do like. So please try to integrate beans into your cuisine is my suggestion. But something really cool just happened. I got a message privately from Brenda Davis. Brenda, of course, writes our appendix, and we showed you our document. She always has a great appendix, and she goes to a lot of trouble. She creates her own recipes, and she takes pictures of them. So she's very well known as one of the best nutrition writers, but she's also a great cook, and she's good at photographing her food. So she sent me a message to share, and she said, I wanted to let you know, so last show was about tempeh, and tempeh, some people aren't crazy about. They don't like the flavor. They're not sure what to do with it. And so she wrote in the tempeh, but she told me privately, she said, Dilip, I don't eat a lot of tempeh. I prefer tofu. So this is what she wrote to me. I just wanted to tell you that I made my first batch of homemade tempeh, which I've never done, and I love it. It doesn't have the off flavor of store-bought tempeh at all. This is something my daughter sometimes says is kind of bitter. I'm excited to be able to add it to our diet. It was easy to make and quite fun. Thanks for giving me a little push on the tempeh thing. So that's awesome to get. So I'm so glad that that Brenda made her own tempeh, and I guess maybe I should try making my own tempeh as well. We had, I think, on our very first show about beans, we had Cindy actually made a really sophisticated, cool tempeh from scratch, which seems to take a long time.
It's fermented too, so you got to ferment it. So
right. Mark, did you want to talk a little bit more about your tours? And
thanks, Phil. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I am a chef. My wife and I are actually chefs on tours with the Veg Johnson Journeys, and I've actually put a link in the comments. If you go to vegjohnsonjourneys.com and look for the 2025 tours. Unfortunately, 2024 tours are all sold out, and what we cook is whole food plant-based no oil on tours at national parks. So this year, for example, we're going to Yosemite, and then we're actually doing the Lake District in England this June, and then in August we're doing Glacier. But next year, you can sign up if you go to Veg Johnson Journeys. You sign up in terms of just kind of expressing your interest, no commitment. The 3 tours that we have scheduled are Joshua Tree, Palm Springs in the end of March of 25, and then in Washington State in July. So we're going to do Olympic National Park in July of 25. And then in October, we'll do the Albuquerque Balloon Festival in Santa Fe. So if you're interested in experiencing some whole food plant-based no oil with a bunch of vegans, we make really nice dishes, and they're all compliant with PCRMs, again, whole food plant-based no oil. We try to do recipes that are very specific to a region. This year, so for example, this year we're doing Yosemite. I'm doing some real kind of classic American dishes. And so they're going to be like, we do carrot dogs and hamburgers and a beef stew and meatloaf and those kind of comfort foods, American foods, type of thing. So if you're at all interested, check us out. Would love to have you. You can go ahead and click on that link that's in the comments, and love to go ahead and answer questions with respect to that.
And let me also throw in that Carolyn Cody and I do plant-based immersions, and that's the link to our program, bit.ly/WFPB immersion. Is it bit.ly or tiny URL? I think it's bit.ly. So, and we're doing one this summer in the mountains of North Carolina. So it's a 3-day event. You come and we'll be making all your meals for you. We have hiking. We have morning activities, exercise, films, a lot of discussion. So, and we have guest speakers. I haven't confirmed with Brenda Davis, but she's one that hopefully can join as well as others. So, so join us at our immersion. It's through Rochester Lifestyle Medicine. I'm on the board of Rochester Lifestyle Medicine, so check that out. We haven't put the dates up yet, and we really need to. Here's a comment from Lee Hay. Henry's tempeh has no bitter flavor. It's made in Ontario. Yeah, we've never heard of Henry's tempeh in the United States. I'd love to try some. I've been told, and I bought it, we have a store called Sprouts, that their tempeh is not so bitter. And I made it, and my daughter said it was okay. She was able to eat it, so that was good. And Janet, okay, good. Okay, so you have been watching us, but you generally don't watch us live. I'm so glad you found us, Janet. And we started during lockdown. We started in May 2020, so we've been going almost 4 years, which is
Yeah, it's
amazing.
crazy. I think this is the 44th show.
Wow. Wow. Not to count. Are you including the kids shows too?
No,
because,
no, it's just the adults. Yeah,
yeah,
just the cooks. Yeah.
yeah. We've done quite a few kids shows too. And speaking of which, don't go away, Mark. I'm going to move you and me from the studio just for a second. I'm going to, well, actually, I won't, because we won't be able to hear us. I was going to bring up this banner and show you our next show. You can see a little bit of it is March 9th, and it's breakfast foods. So Carol and Cody and I, we went on this cruise. So before we got on the ship, we actually made a video of us making one dish. So we're done. We're recording next one. We won't be live. We'll be recorded. So we're going to actually have us making pancakes. You'll get to see that. That was really fun working with them together. So I'm not great at pancakes. My daughter is, and Cody and Carolyn are. So they made the pancakes, and I made a citrus. I love citrus, a citrus reduction, and with berries in it too, as I recall. So you'll get to see us there. And then the next kids show is actually next week. The show next week is, here they are, is they're going to be making soups. And I think it's at 3:30 East Coast time next Saturday. And just lovely children. They range in age from 6 to 15, and they've been doing this, since 2020 as well. So so give a watch. And again, we stream to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and StreamYard knows there's something going on. They can't figure out what it is. So please mark all three. So if we're not on your favorite streaming platform, check one of the other ones. I just don't know why this doesn't seem reliable. At least one of the streams is working, which is good. So let's wrap up then. Any final questions? Mark, do you want to say anything?
No, just real quick, it kind of dawned on me, you had the URL up there on that one banner, somebodycooks.com. So just to let folks know, we're just around the corner from releasing a little update on that website, searchable recipes. So even though all the shows are listed are on the Facebook page with PDF documents, we're going to have a searchable database. So kind of working through the first edits this week. Literally this morning I got the link from the web developer. I'm going to look at it. We've got some almost north of 300 recipes on there over the.
Oh, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, it's north of 300. Yeah, it's probably closer to 400, somewhere in that ballpark between the kids and the cooks. So there's lots of data to go through. So it'll be searchable by cook, by ingredient. So it'll be exciting, and it's just a lot of work, and we're all volunteers. And even though I haven't been on a lot of shows, I've been doing a lot of backroom work here at the web, and Dilp and I are in contact almost weekly on those types of things. So I was glad I was able to join today. You caught me at a really good time. I was working on my menu, and we're actually heading out to have some dinner with some friends. We did find a restaurant that has vegan options, a good Mexican restaurant, which is always a good choice. And then Super Bowl tomorrow, going to Super Bowl party, so making some good Super Bowl vegan recipes too.
Maybe this should have been a Super Bowl show. Maybe next year we should do it. Right? Yeah. And I wanted to thank Mark for the work he's doing. So yeah, we have so many recipes, and so when it's done, you'll be able to say, I love all the recipes by Mark. Show me just Mark's recipes, or I want all recipes related to tofu. Is there anything that has tofu in it? So it'll be really fun, and I think it'll be a powerful. I've already seen some of the work that Mark and his team have been doing, and it looks really good. So I think it'll be a good resource for everybody. For me too, because I like to query the database and find recipes that we've presented in the past. To be honest, I'm kind of behind the scenes, and I'm watching, but I'm not really watching because I'm looking for comments and all. So the cooking, I'm not really processing. So the show we just did, I probably should watch again, because I wasn't watching for understanding. I was watching for all the technical behind the scenes things. I saw the finished products, but I didn't really have the focus I would like to on the process. So
yeah, I just gotta say, if people want to know how to make aquafaba, Carolyn did a really nice job. I caught hers live, and she did a really nice job. So if you got any questions on how to whip that aquafaba up, watch her little clip.
Excellent. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to seeing you hopefully next week for the kids show, and then in March for the breakfast show. So thanks for joining.
See ya.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios.
So many cooks in kitchen. So many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.